supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. And as always, whenever I go on holiday, which isn't very often FYI, I like to tell you about my holiday experience. Because I've talked about it before, but I find holidays a really nice marker point, like a progress report point. And I think it's a good thing to talk about because obviously, you know, we're here to talk about dogs. We talk about the parenting side of it, the people, etc. We don't talk about dog training, that's on the Pawcademy. But having points of reference to then check your progress is really important. So for me, I've said it before, I'm really boring. I go to the same places on holiday. And I see it as right, what did my dogs do last year? What do they do differently this year as a nice progress? So I've just been on holiday, woohoo. Actually, I've been back like a week, 2 weeks. Feels like I never went. The joy of holidays. Spend ages looking forward to them. You blink, they've done, and you forgot about it. So anyway, let me tell you about my holiday. So I went to Norfolk, 4th year in a row going to the same little village. Bloody love it. Really sleepy, really quiet. Beautiful Long Beach, which is usually deserted. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because I'm not, it sounds really like, I'm not sociable. That sounds terrible, but I like my own company. I don't want to have to interact with other people and their dogs like constantly. If I'm out for a walk with my dogs, or I'm at home or I'm on holiday, I'm going out for some solitude with my dogs and whoever I might be with, like husband, mum, whoever. I don't want to talk to everybody. I don't want to have to constantly be navigating situations. I just want to relax. So the fact the beach is deserted, spot on, I'm happy. But anyway, this year was slightly different logistically wise. Because as you'll know, if you've listened to a few episodes before, I've sprained my shoulder. Actually, I don't know if I updated you on that. So a few months ago, I fell down the stairs, I slipped. I'm sure a black dog was involved. Landed on my shoulder, or my shoulder took the most impact on the stairs, and I thought that I know that I had compacted a few ligaments, inflamed all the rotator cuff, but I've actually sprained the ACJ joint as well. Yay! So 6 bloody months to get better, and it's really annoying, and I'm trying not to jolt it or trying not to like have unpredictable movement. So I mean, even this doesn't hurt. If you're listening, I'm lifting my arm up and down. That used to kill. It doesn't anymore. So it's getting better, but I'm trying to avoid like extra, what's the word? Like sort of processed, unarranged, I don't know what the word is, movement. So not lunging. So I'm not holding dog leads in my right hand at the moment. What a faff. Because who knew that it was so difficult to hold the lead in your left hand and feed treats from the right? That feels alien to me. It's so weird. I always feel treats from my left and I can't do it from my right. It feels all discombobulated. But hopefully I'll be like an ambidextrous dog trainer in 6 months' time. But anyway, so because of my shoulder, I've been reluctant to hold dogs with my right hand. Fair. Rem is not much of a puller. So I've been walking him holding my left hand. Generally, we do okay. The other two, strong. I mean, Rem's strong, but they're a little bit more energetic, shall we say, and unpredictable, that they'll move, they'll pull, they might find a smell, a little bit more crazy. They're not really crazy, love them, but I know that they are less likely to not pull, and obviously left arm is not as strong, so it feels weird to hold them in that hand. So I've not been walking dogs. So I said, right, I don't really want to injure my arm anymore, just it's starting to feel better. So logistically, we just said, right, I'm not going to hold those 2 dogs. Now, Dave has to stay at home sometimes because of his aches and pains. So logistics worked out that basically I wouldn't hold any dog, which meant we could only take 1 or 2 out at a time and certain combinations, because my mum obviously loved her. I know you're listening, Mum, but you know, you're not as strong as you were, you're not as young as you were. Can't hold my dogs because again, they can be a bit unpredictable. She got dodgy knees, so you know, only my husband could hold one of our dogs. Right pain in the arse. So instead of walking multiple dogs, 2s or 3s, it was one of our dogs at a time, maybe with my mum's dog. So it was a little bit of a faff, but it actually was really nice. because it meant that all of our dogs got undivided attention for the week, which they enjoyed. We got extra walks on the beach, which was great. But it was a bit of a faff, a real pain. So it was like constantly thinking about it. Now, it kind of brings me on to the things that I like to talk about progress. Now, Fred is my youngest dog, and his progress has been slow because he's really unmotivated and really unique and really independent in a random way. So he doesn't like to eat treats on a walk. He doesn't like to connect with you. He's very, independent, but like no pressure. So everything has to be on his terms in his way. It's a very different way of training, for example, to my middle dog, Rem, who is like on it. So it meant that we took Fred out later in the day, which meant every time we went, the beach was absolutely deserted. Not a soul for as far as the eye could see, and the beach is about 2-3 miles long. Beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. And it meant that he could just have the best time ever. I'm always a little bit conscious of Fred because he does like to talk. He's a chatty dog. And people get, people don't, if they don't know him, naturally, they'll be like, oh, there's a dog barking. And they don't go, I know, that's his friendly, please could you fuss me bark. Other people won't know that, which is fair. I wouldn't expect them to understand that. So I do if we're around people, because I know he just can be a little bit, like, I would say rude. But rude, he's not rude in his actions, but his voice is rude. So I don't like him to put himself in situations where he might piss other people off. Fair. So normally he's on a long line because it's a bit busier. But because there was nobody on the beach, he didn't have to be on a long line. I wasn't quite brave enough to let go of it because he still chases birds. He does like the sea, so I know he wouldn't swim away into the sunset, but he would run into the sunset down the beach. I don't think he would. But I just like to err on the side of caution, just in case someone pops over the sand dunes. So we let his lead trail pretty much every time he was on the beach. He had the best freaking time. And I was so proud of him because naturally he ranges more than I like. So labs, especially if you've met Rem, he is glued to me. Labs tend to stick quite close. A little while ago, we made a reel about how close my dogs stay, or Rem in particular, but Labs stay, versus Spaniels, who naturally are a lot further away from you. Fred's kind of in between. So he kind of doesn't go too far, but he goes further than makes me comfortable because I'm used to Labs. So he does range quite a bit, and I don't like it. So I do like to keep him online for that purpose too, but obviously because he was on the beach, we could let him go. He ranged a bit further, but he was a superstar. He constantly checked in, which, turned back, look at me going, hey mum, you cool? And would choose to come back to me without being called. Every time I recalled him, he recalled beautifully. And by the end of the week, he actually started going in the sea. He's been terrified of the sea every time we've been since he was like a year old. He doesn't like the waves, but he started to go in a little bit and not be too freaked out when small waves came towards him, which is massive progress. So I'm super duper proud of him. He did so well. Now we talked about last year when I went, gosh, was that a year ago already? Blimey. We talked about ball throwers and how I'd used a ball thrower with Rem. Check back on the episode. It was an interesting experiment. My thought was I could pick it up and not get my hands sandy, but it actually turned him into a demon with a ball. More so than normal. He uses a ball and he loves the ball and he knows he gets one on the beach anyway, but he suddenly started not focusing on me because of the ball flinger. Really interesting. Read that episode if you want to, listen to the episode if you want to know more. But this time was really interesting because, again, he has really big associations. He associates behaviour and consequence instantly. So for him, beach is ball because mum normally throws it in the sea. But he was crazy the first day. And I was like, no. You've got to earn it. So he does, I'm a bit horrible, it's mean, but he doesn't get his ball every time he goes to the beach. He has to learn it's not gonna happen. So the first 2 days, I think, he didn't get a ball on the beach. The first day, he was a nutter, constantly mum, spinning around me, trying all his best moves, going, please don't have the ball. I'm like, nope, not having it until you're calm. So we worked on a massive grandma's rule. If you train with us, you'll know what that means. Massive game of grandma's rule. Until you are super duper chill on the beach, you're not getting a ball. So the first 2 days, we had to walk right up close to the rocks for him to go, okay, I can do it. As soon as we went near the water, he couldn't do it. So we played around with that quite a bit. By the end of day 2, which is probably his 5th walk on the beach, he suddenly was like, oh, cool, I can walk on the beach, I can sniff, I can engage with the world. Wow. And then the 6th walk, I was like, okay, now you've earned your ball. So when you chill out, you get a ball walk. But it was really good to see him work through that. Really, really good to see him work through that. And then obviously Dave, lovely old boy, he has 1 walk on the beach because after that his legs are done. It's a tricky one because the cottage is a wooden floor. Now, if you've heard about if you listen to our episodes on, I think from Jay the chiropractor, wooden floors aren't necessarily great for dogs. Dave in particular, because he has arthritis and sore joints, wooden floors are terrible. So just him being in a cottage with wooden floors means that he's working 10 times harder, so he gets really tired. But he normally goes to the beach like every other day just to kind of enough, but then day of rest in between. But he went to the beach once and he was hobbling along and limping, so he didn't get to go again, love him, but he was such a good boy when he was on the beach. But anyway, main event, that's kind of like her roundup of my dogs were fucking epic. But I'm really proud of them because again, it's a massive journey from last time to this time. Nice to check out that. So think of something, it's like a really good training thing I find. If you can think of an event or a time frame where you can compare, what were they like doing this then? What were they like doing exactly the same thing? And it might be like, I don't know, it could be something small like walk to the shop. It could be a car journey. It could be a particular day out. How did they cope with it? Anything. So for me, it's holidays because I have time to stop and actually think about it. And it's like repetitive. We do the same things because I'm really boring. So we do the same things. So it's really easy to compare. So that's what I like about holidays. Now, interesting event that happened. Interesting. So the holiday cottage we stay in, we'll get onto the fact that we're not going back. Lovely cottage, right by the beach, minute from the sea, beautiful, lovely front garden, no back garden because it backs into the sand dunes, but nice. The house next door is owned, so it's owned by somebody, and we had a little bit of an incident, shall we say. They have a new dog, and their new dog is a frustrated greeter. So a bit like Dave, they think frustrated greeter, they're not sure. So barks, lunges, gets excited around other dogs. But it's a rescue, so they've never kind of tested what she actually like with meeting strangers. So every time our dogs were in the garden, she would bark through the fence, which, yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but it's her house. We're already there visiting. Paid a fortune to be there, but hey, that's life. Doesn't bother my dogs generally. They all would tend to ignore, but after so long, obviously get a little bit annoyed with it and retaliate. Fair, and they bark back. It's what dogs do, right? But conscious that, you shouldn't make too much disturbance on holiday. So every time that dog was out, we were like, boys, come on in, because, we don't want to upset her. It's not fair. Again, if you listened to a previous episode last week about judgment and supporting each other, if my dogs are doing something to piss yours off, I'm going to try and stop them from doing that. And to the best of my ability, obviously. So yes, they'd go in the garden and go for a wee. If the dog was out and they make her bark, I don't want them to bark back. I want them to get used to the habit of you bark back over fences, and I don't want to upset her. So boys, in you come. So they didn't have many prolonged outings in the garden, which is a shame because it's a really pretty garden. But then obviously as the week went on, it escalated a little bit. And then there was one day where the dogs were out going out. I was just letting them out for a wee in the first bit of the garden. So it's kind of like a little patio bit and then a lovely big green area. And I tend to keep that bit blocked off so that they can't go in the big area, because obviously it's not my garden. I don't want them to cause any damage. I don't want them to poo and me not know it's there and not tidy it up. You get the picture. And obviously it's the postman's entrance because there's a gate into the garden, and I wouldn't want the postman to be surprised by having 4 dogs go, hello, who are you? And want to give him lots of fuss. So we keep that bit blocked off, and they're only out in the main bit of the garden when we go supervise them, because that's what I like to do. So the boys have been let out into the first little patio bit, and the dog was out and started barking. So I was like, come on then, boys, in you come. 2 had done a wee, so they came in straight away. The other 2 hadn't quite weed, so they were still outside. And the dog went, really kicked off the other side of the fence. So Fred, I don't know why, because he's never done it before in 4 years, but he jumped the little barrier that we put up and went into the main bit of the garden. I was like, mate, come on back in. And just as I was going to go and remove the barrier and get him back in, heard a massive commotion. And I was like, oh, he's barking at the fence. I was like, right, shut the door, go and get some treats and a lead. I don't know what, I didn't get the lead, I just got treats to try and encourage him to come in. So I was like, he's obviously, this dog's pestered him enough, he's had enough now. So I went round took my head round the corner of the barrier, and the other dog was actually in the garden, had bulldozed down the fence, and the commotion was them meeting. I think Fred must have had the fright of his life. And obviously my instant reaction is, oh shit, because I don't know this dog. I don't know what she's like. I don't know if the barking is actually aggression. I don't know if it's a girl, if it's a boy. I know now, but I don't know anything about you. And all you've done is bark at my dog. So this is not a good situation. So obviously heart pounding, as it would be, adrenaline pumping. And after an initial, like who's going to do what? The dogs sort of had a little shake off and just started sniffing around the garden. It was very, very tense energy. My dogs were very tense, or the two that were out were very tense sniffing. It was Fred and Rem that were out. The other two had done their wheeze and gone back in, thankfully. And she was very tense. And you could tell the energy was, oh my God, this is weird. I'm with a stranger. There's a lot of weird energy here, but let's just have a sniff and make ourselves feel better. Then every now and again, they'd go and sniff each other and go, oh shit, and then go back to sniffing. But obviously at this point, I don't know the dog. I don't know what she's like. I don't know anything about her. And I'm like, boys, can you come in? Would they heckers like listen? I'm holding my hands up here. Would my dogs listen to me? No. Every other situation, if we meet a dog on a walk, generally, 99% of the time, they will respond. But this time, hell no. Like, Jesus, dogs, you have to pick this one moment when I'm fearing for your safety because there is a very large, unknown, I don't know her, dog in my garden. And obviously, some dogs would be territorial. Mine generally aren't. But I don't know, again, I don't know her. No owner in sight because the owner has to walk around the fence, not through the hole. So I managed to get Fred in. He was like, Mum, and I was like, come here, quick, in you go. And then Rem was like, but Mum, it's a girl. And he was very interested. And thankfully it was a girl. Because if it had been a boy dog or a male boy dog, or like an entire male, could have been a very, very different situation. And there is a point to all this, I'm sure. So anyway, owner came round, dog was like, I'm having a great time. So ended up clipping a lead on both of them, taking them both their separate ways, and off they went, fence got fixed. But it kind of brings me on to a point that if either of the dogs, obviously, let's say no one was harmed, apart from the fence was damaged, but dogs were fine. They actually handled the situation beautifully, independently, by themselves, diffused the situation, all of them together, the three of them. I think, again, if it had been two, the third one probably helped with the diffusion of the situation. So really, really cool. And actually really proud of how my dogs, how they handled it. Really proud. But it kind of brings us over to the importance or the impact a lead has. Now, I could probably 99.9% guarantee that if any of the dogs had been on lead and that had have happened, another dog rushing into their face, and I'm talking like bull breed, 40 kilogram, humongous girl. She was a big old dog. No collar, nothing. I can't complain. My dogs have a collar on when they're home anyway. So, but yeah, it was, they were grabbing her. If the leads had been involved, I can guarantee that situation would have panned out very differently. Because leads play such an important factor, our attention on the leads and as restraining dogs makes such an impact, and it's an impact we just don't realise. So I think the fact that all the dogs were off lead, they were free to display natural body language, they were free to move away, they were free to diffuse, there was nothing holding them back. That made the situation more natural for the dogs. If they'd been on lead, why they'd been on lead in the garden, I don't know, but if a similar situation had have happened on a walk, I can guarantee there would have been more of an issue. But interesting that, two strange dog meeting, kerfuffle, because I heard some form of a commotion, like there was rowing, they then diffused it and walked off themselves. And doesn't it just go to show that humans play a bigger part than we think we do? And actually a lot of behaviours, a lot of reactivities, a lot of interactions go one way or the other because of us. We don't mean it, we don't intend it, it's just the impact we have. Because naturally a lead takes away choice. And if a dog is unable to make choices, then the choice, say for example, to diffuse, to run away, to move away, to sniff, they can't do that because of the lead. They're left with one option: I'll fight back. So I think it's a huge thing to recognise that leads play a huge part. Equally, I was really pleased that I knew about dog body language, because after a few minutes, well, maybe not a few minutes, it felt like a lifetime, I'm telling you. But after however long, I went, she's not a threat. She's okay. She's not an aggressive dog. She's giving off good signals. I'm really pleased that I know body language, because again, the situation could have been very different. And equally, really pleased that I know how to diffuse a situation like that. There was some cheese involved. Thankfully, she wasn't a resource guarder. But it was definitely an interesting situation. Handled, fine. But we won't be going back to that cottage again. Because it wasn't relaxing. Obviously, for the rest of the week, we were conscious that every time we let the dogs out, it might happen again. And we're upsetting her. So we won't be going back there. But equally, I think it also highlights that when we look at dog-friendly accommodation, we have to take a lot into a thought. We have to consider a lot. That dog-friendly accommodation is so much more than just we let dogs in our property. Because dog-friendly, I've been to dog-friendly, I've been to dog accommodating, I've been to dog welcoming. They're all slightly different. But just because someone says, oh, we're pet friendly, it doesn't necessarily mean what it may mean to you, or it may mean to another person. So, this cottage is dog friendly, it allows dogs, has a nice garden for them, but there's a very short fence, like a picket fence at the bottom, which is a bit rickety, and you go, I don't think any of mine would bowl it over. Fred could clear it if he tried. Don't tell him, because he's never worked it out. And then there's another little picket gate that goes onto a footpath. So yeah, it's okay for me. I wouldn't leave them unsupervised in the garden. But for someone else, it would be like, absolutely, this is not dog friendly. So looking for a dog friendly cottage is actually so much more than just do they allow dogs. It's the garden, it's the security, it's the floor, for example, wooden floor. It's what's next door, what's around it, footpaths. So much to consider, that there are websites, resources out there that are, how do you find a tick box? They inspect the accommodation and they give you a little tick boxes, right? It's got secure fencing, it's got 6-foot fencing, it's got this, it's got that. Because it is really important when you're picking a dog-friendly cottage to make sure that it's actually suitable for you and your dogs and your needs. And obviously up to now, it's been okay. We were planning on going somewhere different anyway next year, so it's fine. But yeah, we definitely won't be going back there, which is a real shame because I love the area, so we might have to look for another one. But anyway, that is a recap of my holiday. And again, good dog insights, always good dog insights, which is nice and useful. Any questions, any thoughts, any dog holiday stories you've got to share, pop them all in the comments. And I will speak to you guys next week. Have a lovely week.
If you love listening to the podcast, why not check out the Pawcademy for practical dog training advice and how-to videos. The hub is broken down into sections, and hundreds of pre-recorded videos are there for you to start watching whenever you choose. You can watch them back as many times as you like. You also get to talk to other community members and discuss your training, and benefit from live Q&As with myself where you can get your questions answered. Why not make use of our 3-day free trial where you can access all of the content on the hub absolutely free for 3 days. The link is in the description below, so do check that out. And I can't wait to see you in the hub. Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.